So the Raptors came into town with the return of former Spurs Jakob Poeltl, and this is the first we've seen of him since getting traded back to Toronto during the deadline last season. And going into the game, the Spurs had just beaten the contending Phoenix Suns twice in their home court, and everybody has been gushing over Wemby since he put up his career high of 38 points against Kevin Durant and Devin Booker. But now that the Spurs lost at home, no one's really jumping at the opportunity to talk about the game. Well, except us Spurs fans and Toronto fans, but can you blame us? What's frustrating is that we let this one slip, 123 to 116, losing in overtime that felt like what we did to Phoenix in that first game. And on a night where Wemby showed a Defensive Player of the Year performance, but more on that later. First, let's get into the bads of the game before we talk about the players individually. Number 1, blowing that 20-point lead. Yeah, let's start with what's on the thumbnail. And I understand that 20-point leads aren't what they used to be. It's more like a 10-point lead in today's game. And much like the previous game in Phoenix, the Spurs were unable to hold the lead for a full game. And that was a problem for the Spurs all of last year. And for these past 2 games, it's just one guy taking over, Booker for the Suns and Barnes for this Raptors team. Hopefully, when Pop decides to adjust how the team plays, they're able to maintain the lead until the end of regulation. The other thing that was a problem all night was the turnovers. The Spurs were sloppy with the ball in the first half. Not as bad as the Clippers game, but they were still turning it over. Wemby had a pair, and one of them was an offensive interference on what would have been a Keldon bucket. I believe Osman got a double dribble call as well, and the rest were pretty much bad passing. And the Raptors also made bad turnovers, with both teams racking up 12 each. The Raptors only committed 1 in the second half, and they did a better job adjusting after the break. Next were the misses from behind the arc. Look, this Spurs team is still a bad 3-point shooting team. Even with McBuckets knocking down 4, it wasn't enough since he only made 50%, which is not bad. But Zach and Wemby went for 20 and 30% respectively. And yeah, it's hard when Devin is out and the team is short one true threat from deep. Not a lot of consistency from the team from behind the arc. And just communication on the court. A lot of bad happened because these guys weren't talking enough. Turnovers over miscommunications, open looks for the Raptors because no one rotated or were late to rotate. And the worst one is when Wemby and Chetty turned the ball over and opened things up for OG to tie the game with seconds left. That one hurt, and it really did feel like the opposite of the first Suns game. So enough of that, let's get into the players. And we'll start with Victor Wembenyama. He was great out there, finishing with 20 points, 9 rebounds, and yeah, he struggled from 3, only going 2 for 7, and that final 3 that he missed in OT, man, that was heartbreaking. But for most of the game, he was a monster defensively. He put up a career high in blocks. Just after he recorded his career high in points, his performance on D was felt though, so much so that the Raptors shot 50% of their shots from deep. And even behind the arc, Wemby was still making his presence felt. And not just blocks. He contested and altered a lot of shots. And some of them were away from the shooter, Luke Cornett style. And I really hope that we get to see this performance again. This time, maybe in a win. Keldon Johnson was producing on offense now that Devin was out for this game. He finished with 26 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists and 2 steals. He shot 11 from 18 and 50% from behind the arc. He really was efficient and didn't look to force things. Maybe a shot or 2 there, but he had 2 great plays on 2 separate jump balls. The first was Trey Jones barely winning against Otto Porter, and Keldon quickly grabbed it and shot it miraculously with 2 seconds left on the shot clock. And the other was when he and Siakam chased the tip and was able to draw the loose ball foul, with the Spurs in the bonus, icing the clutch free throws. But unfortunately, this play ruined that.
No! Rebound!
Shoot! That was my last quarter.
For Zach Collins, he was the 3rd Spur to score over 20 in this game. He finished with 21, 11 boards, and 5 assists. He's gotten a lot of criticism lately, mainly for his lack of interior D and his shooting splits from behind the arc, which I do feel are valid, but in this game, he continued to be a physical presence in the paint, and I think if he can hold off on the attempts from 3 and continue moving the ball on offense, maybe opt for the pick and roll instead of the pick and pop, I really think it would be a large improvement for the team. And besides Victor Wembenyama, the guy that really got me excited for their performance in this game was Malachi Branham. Since Devin was out, we needed someone to pick up the load offensively. Malachi got the nod and the start, and most were looking for him to have the night that he had. 16 points, 8 for 9 from the field, no attempts from 3, but only 1 turnover. He's not a two-way threat like Devin, but he is top 3 in this team when it comes to making his shots in the middle. His confidence with his mid-range showed in this game. We'll see if he can reproduce that stellar performance he had last year in February. I'm really liking what Malachi has shown so far. He may have had a slow start, but I think he's starting to pick things up. Jeremy Sohan and Trey Jones both struggled in this game with their shooting, but the Raptors defense did hound them, making sure they weren't able to give Wemby easy looks throughout the game. They'll need to figure out how to overcome that, and Jeremy early on this game looks like he was rushing things, but despite the struggles for these two, they were giving it their all, playing hard on the court, contesting shots, and even making hustle plays that unfortunately don't show up on the box score. And for any hate on Jeremy on that last inbounds before OT, just know that before he threw it cross court to Zach and eventually got stolen by Scottie Barnes, know that Wemby was in prime position to call for the ball, but he didn't. He turned away from Jeremy, which made him a non-option for the pass. It's not all Jeremy's fault, and I'm not putting the blame on Wemby. It was just poor execution from the Spurs and really great defense from the Raptors. It's sad to see the team lose in such a winnable game, putting yourself in great position early just to let it slip. And granted, the end of the fourth quarter was fought hard. It's just both Barnes and Anunoby were both making their threes, and Barnes just was on fire. Kudos to the Raptors, I guess. But we still have their first round pick for this year, and that's what matters at the end. So if you made it this far, leave a like, to help Devin recover and all that before the in-season tournament begins. And if you didn't know, we are going to cover all of the in-season tournament games for the Spurs. So subscribe to the channel to get notified when we do, and go check out my other videos. I recently did one on the 2 Phoenix games, so give that a watch if you haven't already. But that's it for now, and till the next time.